Hello everybody, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening depending on where you are in this amazing world. My name is Donovan Jolly and welcome everybody once again for another video of DIY investing. Oftentimes I'm so focused on the long-term prospect of Bitcoin that I don't really give you guys a lot of short-term analysis. Today I wanted to go through and talk about Bitcoin. I wanted to go through and give you guys all of my different things that I'm watching for Bitcoin. Are we preparing for more downside? Of course we are, but we're also preparing for upside as well. And so there's a lot of different things that we need to cover today. We're also going to be diving into the altcoin dominance and the Bitcoin dominance. There's something playing out that I haven't been expecting for the last few months, but is now even closer to playing out, which is going to set us up for a massive opportunity to be making profits in these altcoins. There's some really important things that are playing out, and I think it's very important that we all know both the short-term and the long-term perspective, as well as both the bullish and the bearish perspectives as well. If we understand both of these scenarios going into this, it's going to set us up for a lot of profit potential moving forward. My goal for this video is 1,000 likes, so make sure you guys smash up that like button and help me get to my goal. If you're looking to join a Discord community with over 4,000 members, I highly recommend that you guys check out my server. The Discord is totally free for you guys to join. However, I also do offer some of my more exclusive content in the Discord, like my video course and signals. The video course is 20 educational videos that teach you guys all of the same strategies that I use to profit inside of crypto. So if you're somebody that actually wants to start learning how to do this on your own and become a profitable analyst and trader in this market, that's going to be definitely the thing that you're going to want to check out. Now, the signals are a way for you guys to actually copy my long-term portfolio, all of the trades that I'm taking, as well as exit points that I'll be doing when it comes to taking my profits. That's a good way for you guys to actually copy what I'm doing in this next bull cycle to actually profit alongside with me. So if either of these two interest you, make sure you guys check out the Discord. Even if those don't interest you, make sure you guys join the Discord anyways, because there's a lot of really good, awesome conversation that's always taking place in here every day, and I'd love to have you guys a part of the team. Now, with all that being said, thank you all so much for the support, and let's jump right into this amazing update today. So to start this off, we're going to be taking a look at Bitcoin. We're going to be scanning over the Bitcoin dominance, altcoin dominance, and then I wanted to share you guys an updated perspective with the XRP Bitcoin pair and the Ethereum Bitcoin pair. Really, this video is going to be dedicated towards the Bitcoin pairs because I have been talking about them recently, but something's kind of playing out inside of the market cap and the price structure that makes me feel like we are very close to having a potential for a bearish scenario, or what I should say, my secondary count. Now, if we go through here, let's actually analyze some things. We're going to be taking a look at Bitcoin on all time frames so I can give you guys kind of an understanding of what I'm actually expecting here so that we can all be on the same page together. Now, really, let's move the volume here so we can just look at price action alone. Now, kind of what I'm watching for are these monthly support levels. I would say that the first real monthly support level would be here at about $5,800. For you guys that maybe do not know, during this initial sell-off when we consolidated here at this support floor at 6K, this was about the lowest point of the bottom of that 6K triangle, and that comes out to about $5,800. Now, the next area that I would be watching would be here at 64. So I would say $5,800 to $6,400 is going to be the monthly area that everybody should be watching. Realistically, I think that the best of those two areas would be about 6,400. I'd say that as long as Bitcoin on the monthly can close above 6,400, then that is going to be very, very bullish on a monthly perspective, considering the fact if we were to close above 6,400, you're looking at about a 66% buyback that came, and that's a huge wick to have happen. In my opinion, that would very easily point to capitulation. But you guys got to keep in mind that even if we don't close above 64, I would say that as long as we're above 5,800, then we're still maintaining bullish market structure. It's really if we start to close back below 5,800 that's going to show that we have experienced a lot of short-term weakness at this 6K support floor, which I think a lot of people were actually expecting to hold support. And so from a monthly perspective, this is going to be the range that I'm watching. I would say as long as we hold support above this range, then that's going to be a go-to. Now, $6,400 takes us to roughly the bottom of this initial sell-off from 14K back down before we actually got this most recent bounce. And so I'd say that if we could get above 6,400, then that's going to be very, very bullish because this entire retrace and lower low won't even exist at that point on a monthly perspective. Now, let's drop it closer to a weekly time frame so that we can even further understand. I'm actually going to remove this $5,800 one, and we're going to take a look at mainly this $6,400. Now, I have this $6,400 area labeled because this is pretty much the average of this 6K support floor. On top of that, that was the bottom at the new year before we actually bounced. even though we sold off for one more low, if we can actually close above 6,400, then that's going to look very bullish because we basically made up all of that sell-off in this move. Now, obviously, we're going to need to see what the market's going to give us, but to me, this looks really good. Obviously, if we're watching this right now, we do know that we're getting this buyback, but we are right back at major resistance. Even though we're back above 6,400 technically, this is still a very major area that we need to watch out for. And let's actually drop it to a daily time frame so we can see here. Now, if I was watching this, I would say that realistically, I'd say the major area we need to claim is probably about 73.50. That was the area that I would be personally watching for, and that was even the area that I was watching for back down in here. I figured that as long as we could maintain a level above 73.50, then this was going to consume. That this was actually going to continue to perform well. But you gotta go remember that if we're looking at this, we did get a lot of volume that came in during this sell-off, but we're seeing declining volume since then and rising price, which is obviously bearish. And so that's not looking super good as far as correction goes. It looks more like a corrective impulse, and it looks more likely we'd actually come back down and retest some of those lower levels. And so by dropping it to an even shorter time frame, let's take a look at the 4-hour here. We can see that this is our $6,400 area. We can see that we are having quite a bit of resistance at this level. And so I would like to see us hold above this, but it is likely that we could see a retrace just based off of the volume profile alone. We can see here that we have declining volume, we have inclining price. That's always corrective. It is possible that we could just get a major impulse and then we get some breakout volume, but based off of the volume profile, this is a corrective move. And so I don't think that the real opportunity for buying was down in here, probably around 5K, or if you could have bought down in here below 4K even, that was probably the best buying opportunity. I don't recommend FOMOing in at these prices up here. I think it's much more realistic that we would have a short-term correction, and that's really what this looks like to me. It looks more like corrective behavior. Now, with that being said, does this mean that we're going to head to a new low? Well, it doesn't always have to mean that. Just because it's a corrective sequence doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to have to fall to a new low entirely, because to be honest, guys, I think that if we are going to fall again, most likely we'd come back down to either retest 5K, maybe high 4,000s, or we could even fall back down and retest these lower wicks down in here at about 3,800. And that's what I've been watching for this entire bounce. To me, I felt like it was needed that unless we were just going to get a V bottom and just impulse straight up here back to like 8K, unless we were going to do that in this move, then I was actually expecting that we would find short-term resistance near 7K, and then we'd actually fall back down to retest some of this support that we had found down in here. Because in my opinion, we need a little bit of confirmation. If this really is the bottom of this correction, and with the Fed now printing money, we could very easily see a V bottom form here. But what I'm going to be watching for, and kind of what my primary count has been for this entire correction, is really just watching for a short-term sell-off back down to 5K, even all the way back down to 3,800, retest some of these lower support levels down in here. Because if we could do that, I think that that would set us up for a bottom, and then at least we would know. Because if we came back down to these wicks, and then we saw a lot of weakness here, then obviously we could expect to see us fall all the way back down, either fully retrace, and even head back down into a new low. And that's something that we have to watch out for. This video might be a little bit longer because I really wanted to go through all of my my counts and what I'm really watching for, because I honestly think that this is a really important part of the market, because obviously, to me, I've been bullish since back down in here. I felt like this higher high was our first impulse. I'm going to continue to stick to that plan until we actually start breaking bullish market structure, but that's been my plan since this entire move, and so I'm not going to change my plan. A lot of people are mad at me saying that even though the entire trend is still macro bullish, I don't see that necessarily because I see this entire uptrend previously. So I think that there's a lot more people being bearish in this time, and that's why I feel like I have a little bit more bullish bias. So I'm going to continue to hold the stance that this is a higher high, and we're going to continue to impulse up into new all-time highs, because I do like what we're seeing from a technical perspective. I mean, if we take a look at every bottom that we had, every cycle high and low, we can see that Coinbase volume has a really good way of pointing to the cycle highs and the cycle lows. And I think that this volume that we recently saw in here is a good giveaway that we could be experience the first short-term bottom, and we could see an impulse that takes us all the way back upwards of 8K. That would really be my bullish scenario, an impulse back up to 8K. because I think that that in theory should hold support when we do sell off a little bit back down to about 65K or $100. And so that's what I'm actually going to be watching out for with Bitcoin. Now, there is a possibility of a downside target that I'm watching for. This would be my bearish scenario, and you guys have obviously seen this before. This is just a big ABC correction that'll take us back down to $1,200 to $1,000 and potentially even down to $800. That's something I'm watching out for. On the log scale, it looks like that can play out, but when you drop it to an actually regular scale, it seems like it would be kind of retarded for it to just sell off, make a new low down to here, and then start a new cycle. It just looks a little bit weird to me. I'm not saying that it's impossible, because anything's possible. I wasn't expecting a sell-off to take us back down to 38, and that happened. I also wasn't expecting us to go to 14K, and that happened from 3,200. So, this is what I've been telling you guys with. Expect the unexpected, because this market is just way different than anything we've experienced thus far. It's more volatile. There's a lot more uncertainty. And, with all of the global turmoil that's taking place, I think it's very important that we prepare for all scenarios, because you guys got to know that even though I'm a long-term bull and I generally stick to a long-term perspective with my bullish stance, and I'm always bullish, you guys got to remember that I still have bearish scenarios that I do watch. Even if I don't make a lot of updates on my YouTube channel, these are still bearish scenarios that I'm watching for. And to me, guys, I've always believed that this was a long-term thing for me, and so I was going to hold the long term no matter what price is doing. I was going to continue to average in, and so I'm going to continue to do that. If I'm wrong and we go to $1,000, you know what, screw it, I'm wrong, and this is just part of the game, and this is the way it works. So to me, I'm not going to get too shaken out by this. We could still get rejected here at resistance, fall back down to retest some of these lows, but for me, I still think that we're bullish on the long term. Even if we sell back down, I think that that's going to set us up for, a pretty big impulse. And I think with us being so close to that halving, there's more fundamental reasons to be a bull than there is a bear in this time. And that's just the point that I'm at right now. I think that I'm going to stick to that bias. You guys can make your own decisions, but this is just kind of what I'm watching out for with Bitcoin. Now we're actually going to get into the second part of the video. Now we're going to be taking a look at the Bitcoin dominance and the altcoin dominance, because this is something that's really, really important here. Now, kind of what I want to talk to you guys about and what I've been updating you guys about for a while now is the potential for a 79% Bitcoin dominance, right? And that's kind of what I've been watching for a while now. I figured that we would see this about 79% dominance because it actually coexists with a Fibonacci relation between the altcoins. For maybe you guys that don't know what I'm talking about, I will get into it here a little bit later, but let's go through and analyze what I'm expecting with the Bitcoin dominance. Now, with this Bitcoin dominance, we are actually showing a lot of short-term strength, and I thought that we were actually going to sell through the short-term trend line. But the more I look at it, the more it looks like it's actually showing bullish market structure. And so kind of what I'm seeing here is I see this as being a trend line. This is a bullish trend line. And this is obviously where the dominance has risen since the top of the cycle. And Bitcoin dominance has continued to grow against the altcoins. Now, what I'm noticing here from a technical perspective is that this was a 1. And originally I had this labeled as a 3, and this was a 5. And this was the sell-off that broke our trend line. But the more that I'm looking at this, the less that that's looking probable, and the more it's looking like this is going to be the primary count here. 1, 3, and then we're going to get one more final impulse up to 79% dominance, and that 79% dominance is going to take us right to that descending resistance on the previous downtrend. Because you guys got to remember that since altcoins have been around, Bitcoin dominance has been in a downtrend. And you can see that, lower lows, lower highs. We can see this downtrend, and then in 2017, that was really the first time where altcoins broke out, and that's why we see this massive sell-off in the Bitcoin dominance. But since 2018, since the 20K Bitcoin, since this entire correction over the last 2 years, we've actually started an uptrend in Bitcoin dominance. And originally, I thought that from this move here, we were going to sell off, break trend, and then fall back down. But the way it's looking right now is it's looking like that's less of the expectation, and it's more likely that we're actually going to go into another impulse. Now, what we need to see happen here, I would say that we need to clear back above about 66% dominance for me to really cement that bullish nature. If we can get back above 66% dominance, then I think that that's really the biggest reason, that's really the biggest level for resistance to watch. Now, obviously, we have some of these highs at about 66 or about 68 to 70% dominance, but I think to me, 66% is going to be the most important level because this is really our first lower high. And if we reject off this, then I'm going to think that we're bearish. But if we actually break above this, then that's actually going to be a bigger, higher high in the cycle. So watching here, My long-term stance on crypto still doesn't change. Even if Bitcoin dominance goes up a little bit higher and we see some short-term selling in altcoins, my long-term stance still hasn't changed. And my reason for that is because if you look at the technical perspective, Bitcoin dominance is in a downtrend. Even with this big breakout and even with this uptrend that we're forming, you know, this is still a major descending resistance. In my opinion, we will get rejected. And the volume profile actually lines up with that very nicely. We can see that we've had declining volume. And since 2018, since about right here, we've had declining volume and inclining price. That's obviously bearish. And so even if this impulses and goes a little higher, Bitcoin takes a lot more of that dominance from the altcoins again. Bitcoin pairs bleed a little bit further. You know, long term, this is still going to correct and this is still going to see a lot of value entering those altcoins. And so for me, what I'm personally doing with my trading plan is I'm a buyer of Bitcoin. I'm buying Bitcoin only in these times just because of the fact I think that it's a little bit less risky. If the Bitcoin dominance is going to continue to uptrend, even if Bitcoin drops in price, I'm still not going to be losing as much and it's still a better hedge on my investment compared to just investing in the altcoins. And with that, I can buy Bitcoin now, and even if Bitcoin dominance impulses and the price goes down, which is something that can happen, even if that happens, I still strongly believe that we will see, even if that scenario starts to happen, I can still take what Bitcoin I bought when it was starting to go down, and I can still, you know, buy altcoins when this level gets really overvalued and we hit that 79% dominance. Now, this actually takes me to the most important aspect of this entire video, and this is the altcoin dominance, because the altcoin dominance is going to tell us the most important story. Now, this is the chart I've been updating you guys with for the last probably 4 months now at this point at least. This is a pattern that I've seen playing out inside of the altcoin dominance, and I haven't seen any other analysts talk about this. I actually wrote this off as a possibility right here because I expected us to actually start impulsing. But what happened is we sold off, the Bitcoin dominance is showing strength, altcoin dominance is showing weakness, and so now I go back to this count. What I've noticed here is that every major bottom of the altcoin dominance, each one of these numbers you can see is the bottom, and then we see this massive rally that takes place. And each one of these is an alt season. And you can go back to the dollar pairs of the charts, and you can actually look at the exact dates and see that every time we had a low bottom here in the dominance, it was the bottom of the altcoins before they had a massive rally, right? Now, what I've noticed is that each one of these altcoin bottoms is an exact relation to the Fibonacci sequence. Now, what you notice here is that we start at 3, 5, 8, but you're going to notice that here on the Fibonacci equation that there is actually a 0 and a 1 and a 1 and a 1 and a 2, and then it goes into our multiples. But the thing is, guys, we don't have enough price data in history to actually go off of. Otherwise, it would follow this exact cycle even still, because you guys got to remember that if the altcoins just started and there was one altcoin on the market, it had to have started at 0% dominance, and then as altcoins grew, it eventually went to 1%, that 1% went to 2%, and that gets us to our current multiples. Now, if we had this chart, it would look similar to this, but all we have to look off of is the 3. Now, this is where it gets really interesting, because each and every bottom of the altcoins is an exact Fibonacci equation, an equivalent right here. So in this case, we're going to just remove all of these previous numbers, and we're only going to start right here because that's all the data that we have. Now, 3% is an equivalent, and the way that the Fibonacci equation works is you take the first number, add it to the next number, and then that's your answer. So 0 plus 1, or 1 plus 0 is 1, 1 plus 1 is 2, 2 plus 1 is 3, 3 plus 2 is 5, 5 plus 3 is 8, 8 and 5 is 13, 13 and 8 is 21, right? And that's the way that all of these pairs go. And it's really important that we understand that, because this bottom fractal is following this Fibonacci equation. As the altcoins begin to grow and prosper into their market cycles, they're painting an exact fractal of the Fibonacci equation. Now, for you guys that maybe do not know what the Fibonacci equation is, the Fibonacci equation is just the mathematics that govern life. It's the mathematics that make up everything. If you've ever looked at a pine cone and you've seen all of the little swirls around it, that is the mathematics of the Fibonacci equation. And you can actually see the mathematics right here. And this is the way that it works. Now, what we're noticing here is that each bottom is a Fibonacci equation. Now, let's go through and actually analyze this fractal and see how it's playing out. Now, 3 plus 5 is 8, 3 and 5 is 8, 8 and 5 is 13. So that takes us to our next Fibonacci equation. 13 plus 8 is 21. Now, guys, this is where it gets really important, because every bottom has been a Fibonacci equivalent. Now, what we've had was 13 and 8 took us into our next cycle, and the two of those combined equals 21. And we've been waiting for this 21% dominance since way back up in here when we first started selling off. And that's when I started updating you guys with this chart. I actually expect altcoins dominance to take one more lower low. I don't know if the dollar pairs are going to bleed. It would make sense to me that the dollar and the Bitcoin pairs are going to go for one more low and one more capitulation, and that's something we need to pay attention for. However, the dollar pairs could still uptrend and the Bitcoin pairs could go down. These are all scenarios that we have to watch for, but no matter what I am expecting to see is that this altcoin dominance is going to fall for one more low, and we're going to continue on with this amazing fractal. Now, what should in theory come after this is a massive bull run. I think that that'll take us back up to about 80-90% altcoin dominance, and we'll see another major alt run in the place. And so this is something that I've noticed for a while. I haven't seen anybody talking about this. There's been no other analyst talking about this. And so I actually wanted to make this video so that I thought that we were all on the same page together. Now, this is what I'm actually going to be watching out for with the altcoins and with Bitcoin on the long-term perspective. I still think that we have one more higher high coming here in the Bitcoin dominance. However, it's really important that we clear above 66% to prove that. As long as we're staying below 66%, then I'm going to stick to a bearish bias. But if we break back above 66%, then I'm actually going to expect a higher high upwards of 79%. And so for me, to kind of talk to you guys about my personal strategy, I'm holding all of my bags. I'm a long-term holder. There's no point in me taking profits right now. A lot of the bags that I've been accumulating have been within this year, and so I don't really want to take profits too early. I don't want to cut a loss. I just would rather hold for the long term because that's my plan and always has been. And so for me, I'm not going to be looking to average into altcoins quite yet. I'm going to be buying Bitcoin. Even if Bitcoin starts to tumble and goes back down to those $3,800 levels, I'm just going to continue to average into a position as best I can. I don't have a lot of cash. I have been very transparent about that. But I just figured that I'd be very open with what I'm doing so that we're all kind of on the same page. But to me, I think it's better to buy Bitcoin in this time. I think the Bitcoin will make one more higher high. And when that actually happens, it's going to bleed those altcoins. I don't know if the dollar pairs are going to bleed too, but it would make sense just seeing the dominance and what's happened in times past. So this is a video I had for you. Wanted to make sure that we're all on the same page with the bearish perspectives that we have. I forgot to actually talk about this, but looking at XRP on the BTC pair, you know, we're not showing very strong bullish sentiment right now. Market structure looks very bearish, and to me it looks like we're setting up in a descending triangle that's actually going to take us to right down in here. Should be about 1,500 Satoshis. That's going to be my next target for XRP BTC. This looks very bearish to me. When we were holding support and we're impulsing, it looked all right. The fact is we've sold off from that point and it's just showing lower highs and lower lows. So until that trend changes, I'm actually expecting a lower low. Maybe hedge some of your long-term investments by taking some short opportunities. That's personally what I'm going to be looking to do right now because I do think that we'll fall for one more low. Now, with that being said, taking a look at Ethereum, really it's the same thing as the altcoin dominance. There's really no difference. It's the exact same chart. And so for me talking about this, I don't need to talk about a whole lot here. Basically, we have a 1, we have a 3, and we'll get one more final 5-wave impulse. My guess is this takes us back down to about 0.1 Bitcoin Ethereum ratio. And this right here, what we saw, this corrective stuff right here was just an ABC up. To me, if we drop into a shorter time frame, kind of what I'm going to be watching to see, let's actually go to a daily time frame. I'm not saying that we can't bounce here, but we need to bounce here right now, and that's the whole point of this video. Really, guys, I would say that my lowest level that I watch is about right here. The second we start to drop below that, it's for sure bearish. Really, the level I was watching was a higher high. Once we started dropping below that, it made me feel bearish. So even if we bounce and get a short-term relief rally, in my opinion, we'll still get rejected. And this is really just an ABC correction up before we fall to one more final new low. And in theory, that should be capitulation. I would really love to see it happen with these altcoins. I've been holding these suckers for a long time. Obviously, when you're holding these for the long term and you're averaging into positions, you're going to see some short-term losses. That's part of the game. And so it'd be really nice to actually see some impulses coming, but I do believe we might have to wait a little bit longer. But guys, the long-term picture with crypto has still stayed the same. I'm still very long-term bullish on Bitcoin. Even if we have to fall back down and retest these lows, that's just going to give us a good buying opportunity. But to me, that's the plan that I'm going to stick to. So you guys can do what you want. This is just what I'm going to be doing. This is obviously not financial advice. It's just my own opinion and trading plan. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you found any value in this, always remember to leave a like, comment, and subscribe to this channel. Make sure you guys click that notification bell so you don't miss out on any new videos like the one provided for you here. Make sure you guys join the Discord. It's totally free. click in the description of this video. There you're going to get an invite. Once you guys have the invite, you can message me to get access to more exclusive content, or you guys can just mess around in there. But with all that being said, thank you so much for the support. I will catch you in the next video. As always, peace out.